Welcome everyone to our Sutta class in English, brought to you from Sri Lanka by our most respected Venerable Bulwala Ratanassiri Thero, the Chief Abbot of Millava Dharma Vijayarama Temple in Kurunagala. And it is time to start our Sutta. Class 9. Over to you, Reverend Sir.
Good evening. You are welcome to my 9th Sutta class. Today, the Sutta that I have selected for you is Ananta Lakkana Sutta. In my last Sutta class, after the Sutta class, one of my Google listener requested me to deliver Ananta Lakkana Sutta. That's why I selected this Sutta. Another name for this Ananta Lakkana Sutta is Panchavagya Sutta. Panchavagya Sutta is in Samyutta Nikaya in Sutta Pitaka. The commentary for Ananta Lakkana Sutta is Saratta Prakasini Sutta, the commentary. You know, Buddha went to Bena in Isipatanaram to meet Panchavagya Bhikkhu, 5 ascetics, to deliver his first Dhamma. He delivered his first Dhamma, Dhammacakkapavattana Sutta, to 5 ascetics. Buddha stayed there for many days. After listening to Dhammacakkapavattana Sutta, as you know, ascetic Kondanya, he attained the Soan state, the first state of Nibbana or the Arahant. He attained into the first stage called Soan. He understood Dankinti Samudaya Dhammang Sabbantang Nirodha Dhammanti. Ascetic Kondanya understood if any element that is formed with a reason or cause, if there is no cause, that element is also not to be seen there. And that way he understood Yankinti Samudaya Dhammang Sabbantang Nirodha Dhammanti. He understood the nature of phenomena in the world, ascetic Kondanya. But other 4 ascetics, they were not able to attain the Soan state. The Buddha stayed with them, and Buddha delivered suttas, several suttas to them, second day, on third day, and 5th day, and like that, Buddha delivered some suttas. But we have not identified what are those suttas. we know only the first day Buddha delivered in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, and on fourth day, the Buddha delivered this Ananta Lakkana Sutta. On second, third, and fourth days, the Buddha delivered Dhamma to 5 ascetics. During that period, other 4 ascetics also entered into the Sowan state. Now, the 5 ascetics have been entered by the Buddha to Sowan state. So Buddha delivered on the 5th day this Ananta Lakkana Sutta. After listening to Ananta Lakkana Sutta, 5 ascetics became Arahant. They entered Sowan, Sakuddagami, Anagami, and Arihat. We have to think of why Buddha selected this Ananta Lakkana Sutta to make 5 ascetics Arahant. We have to think of the religious and philosophical background in India at that time. In Ananta Lakkana Sutta, Buddha explained there is no soul. There is no soul inside the body or outside in the environment. Buddha wanted to explain non-soul theory because at that time in India there were 62 wrong views, dogmatic views associated with this soul. In my last Sutta descriptions in Brahmajala Sutta, you have understood those dogmatic views association with the soul. In Brahmajala Sutta, we identified there are 62 dogmatic views or wrong views association with Sāsvatavāda and Uchchedavāda, eternalism and annihilationism. Sāsvatavāda and Uchchedavāda. This Sāsvatavāda and Uchchedavāda, it connects with craving. Those concepts are formed in the person because of craving. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. By means of those sort of cravings, the person forms that Sāsvatavāda and Uchchedavāda. In Brahmajala Sutta, Buddha explained there are 18 dogmatic views about eternalism association with the former birth, and 44 dogmatic views or the wrong views associating with the next birth. In that way, Buddha explained those Sāsvatavāda and Uccedavāda. We have to consider how those conceptions of soul or Sāsvatavāda and Uccedavāda, when those conceptions came to the society. In Brahmajala Sutta, it explains how the Brahmanism, the concept of Mahabrahma, appeared in the society. In Brahmanism, they believe there is eternal soul inside the body of the person. It is known as, later it is known as Atman. Then outside in the environment, there is also called Brahman. According to the Brahmanism, they believe that there is some permanent elements inside the body of the persons and also the outside in the environment. This conceptions, the origin of these conceptions begins with the polytheism. Polytheism means people, they believe that natural phenomena, they regarded the natural phenomena like gods. The natural phenomena has power, like waterfalls, mountains, ocean. In that way, they are created some mystery in the mind of the person, and they believed they are gods and they are powerful. Sun, moon, stars, those natural phenomena, they regarded them as gods. Their polytheism arised in the society. Then after that, they began to think of the most powerful one natural phenomena. There appeared monotheism. So the monotheism and polytheism are the origin of those Sāsvatavāda and Uccedavāda. Against the Brahmanism, Brahmin authority, there arised reclusive tradition, ascetic tradition, shamanism, there arised. Ascetics, they criticize the concept of Brahmanism, Mahabrahma, the creation of Mahabrahma, they criticized. There appeared ascetic tradition, shamanism, they investigated the natural phenomena and they formed their own ideas. And when it come to the Upanishadic philosophy, there arise Atman and Brahman. The ascetic traditions, they also, and the Brahmanism, Brahman tradition, they also, those two traditions, they believed that the soul, there is soul inside the body of the person and outside in the environment. Both traditions, Brahmin traditions and ascetic traditions, they presented their views, their dhamma, and their philosophy. They explain associating these soul, the permanent soul or non-permanent soul, associating Sasatavada and Uchchedavada. Six teachers, the contemporary teachers of the Buddha, six teachers, they also presented their doctrines associating, connecting with eternalism and annihilationism. Such was the background of India, religious and philosophical background in India when the Buddha was delivering this Anantalakkana Sutta, the five ascetics. Another important point is there to be concerned, five ascetics, they are also ascetics. They belong to ascetic traditions. Do you remember when Buddha practiced the self-mortification for 6 years? There are those five ascetics, Kondanya, Baddiya, Vappa, Mahanama, Assaji, and those five ascetics, they helped Buddha to practice self-mortification. Buddha as ascetic, Buddha practiced that self-mortification, fasting, until his skin stick to his skeletons. He fasted for 6 years. At that time, five ascetics, they helped the Buddha because they believed to enter Nibbana, self-mortification must be practiced because soul is inserted in the body of the person. There is integration and soul and body of the person to have salvation or to enter Nibbana. The person must separate the soul from his physical body. To do that, the person has to practice austerity. There are so many austerities at that time under self-mortification. In Kukkuravatiya Sutta, it reveals some ascetics, they behave as a dog, as a cow, to uh, practicing those self-mortification. They believed that they can separate their soul from the body and they can enter into Nibbana, or to have salvation, to enter their ultimate goal. That that's how they believed. The five ascetics, they are keen about that self-mortification. When Buddha understood as a Siddhartha Gautama ascetic, he understood this self-mortification is useless. It is one of the extreme of the life, self-mortification. Another extreme is self-indulgence. As being Siddhartha, he practiced that self-indulgence. It also useless to enter the Nibbana. The Siddhartha Gautama, the ascetic, he understood, he realized by having experiences of those two extremes, self-indulgence and self-mortification. But five ascetics, they are keen in self-mortification. They fell out with Siddhartha Gautama ascetics. At that time, they left him and they went to Benas, Varana, Isipatanarama, Nigadai. They stayed there. After that, Buddha following the middle pathway, eightfold pathway, and Buddha entered the Buddhahood, and he decided to deliver his Dhamma to five ascetics. Buddha went to Benas in Isipatanarama, Nigadaya, and there Buddha delivered his first sermon, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, to five ascetics. On fifth day, Buddha delivered Ananta Lakkana Sutta. In Ananta Lakkana Sutta, Buddha used one of his four methods in communicating facts, or his teaching method. Buddha has four teaching methods. They are known as Ekansa Vyakaraniya, Vibhajyakaraniya, Patiputta, and Tapaniya. Ekansa Vyakaraniya means he explained the facts directly. At once he come to the listener, entered the listener, and he explained the doctrine Dhamma. Then Vibhajyakaraniya means if his follower or listener asks questions, he divides the question into several parts and explain his doctrine. Patiputta Karaniya means he get the listeners to ask questions. He asks questions and get answers from them. Get the rapport. He keep the rapport between him and the listeners, that in that way, it is called the Patiputta Karani. He asks questions and they answer, the listeners answers. And there is interconnections. Attention is there. Another method is tapani. Tapani means he keeps silence without answering questions. Sometimes uh, uh, so many persons who bore dogmatic views, they came to argue with the Buddha. The Buddha kept silence without giving answer to the logical questions. He had to answer yes or no. So he did not answer those questions. There was one question called, was this soul and body is one or separated ones? Soul, the life and body is separated ones or integrated ones. One day, some person asked, Buddha, he knew the answer, but he kept silent according to the situations. Later, he explained all those things. In this sutta, in Anantalakkana Sutta, Buddha used the Patiputta Karani, the method. Patiputta Karani means he delivered his Dhamma by asking questions. The five ascetics, they answered the Buddha. In that way, the Buddha delivered this Anantalakkana Sutta. First, Buddha asked five ascetics whether this body, the being, the five aggregates, Attava, Anattava, whether these five aggregates, the being, the body is soul. Is their soul inside this physical body, the physical aggregate, Rupa Skandha? Buddha asked, if it is, if there is soul in physical body, the Buddha answered, if there is a soul inside the physical body, that physical body does not give much trouble to us. If it is soul, if it is I, if it is mind, it does not give such trouble to us, Buddha explained. Now think of our body. When we think of our body, we can understand. We get several sicknesses. We don't like to be patient, but we have to suffer from several sicknesses. And our body, it is decaying. we like to be as a young one. We like to remain until the end of our life as a young one, as a beautiful woman or a handsome man. We like to live. But if it is our body, but it does not stay as we like. So the Buddha says, if this physical body, rupa skandha, if it is I, or if it is mine, if it is self, that things won't be happen. Buddha explained. In this sutta, the Buddha dealt with 5 aggregates. And these 5 aggregates, not only for the human beings, these 5 aggregates, Buddha covered the whole beings and the universe. So in this sutta, Buddha analyzed these 5 aggregates covering the whole beings and the whole universe. Now, at first, Buddha asked from 5 ascetics whether this physical body is soul or is self. And if it is self, why it gives such troubles for us? Buddha asked those questions. Buddha elicit their mind to think of the nature of the physical body. Then Buddha asked him, if it is changing, if something is to be changed, if this rupa skandha is subjected to be changed, is there dukkha, suffering? Buddha asked. Then the 5 ascetics, they understood, due to the changing of this body, there arise sufferings. They get sicknesses, the body is decaying, there arise sufferings. They understood that once they said, yes, it is if something is impermanent, if something is impermanent, yadanityam tandukkam. If something is impermanent, there is suffering. So the 5 ascetics, they understood. Then Buddha analyzed this physical body of the person, the rupa skandha, adhyattika, bahiddha, avidura, dura. In that way, he analyzed past, present, future. In that sense, he analyzed. In adhyattika, referring the person inside the person. Adhyattika, the Buddha analyzed the Rupa Skandha. He analyzed the parts of the body, like the 32 parts. Atti masmin kai kesa loma naka danta tato mansan naharu. In that way, inside the body, we have parts or faculties. They contain large quantity of Patavi elements, solid is their Patavi, Apo, Teju, Vayu. So the Buddha wanted to explain the five ascetics. There is no soul inside the body. He analyzed those every part of the body, the solid parts and liquid and moving parts like gas or air. He analyzed the body and showed that there is no soul, there is no permanent soul. So, because in India, the people who believed in soul, they believed soul has a shape. It has been formed by material. First, they thought it is like a grain, gram, a grain of gram, like that. So it has a shape or it has some materials in Atman or in soul. Then they began to think that soul has a shape of the person, that soul has faculties also. In that way, they believed the soul. The soul is there inside the body. Then when person dies, soul does not die and it transmigrates to other world or other birth. That the people who believed Sasatvad, eternalism, they thought like that. The soul, permanent soul, transmigrate. But annihilism, in annihilism, the people who believe in annihilism, they thought or they believed that no soul there, and this, if there is soul, the soul is also destroyed after the death of the person. It is called annihilism, Kedavada. Those are the two dogmatic views in the society at that time in India. So Buddha wanted to show there is no such a permanent soul. So he take First, the adhyattika means the person's body. He get the person to think his own body, and the Buddha analyze into several parts like Patavi, Apo, Teju, and showed all those parts of body. They are the combination of Patavi, Apo, Teju, Vayu, solid, liquid, heat, and air. Nothing beyond that. There is no soul inside the body, adhyattika. Then Buddha get the five ascetics to think of the outside, the environment, rupa skandha, figures, natural phenomena. Buddha pointed out those those natural phenomena. There were no souls in natural phenomena. They are made of Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu. In that way, the Buddha explained. Then Adhyattika body means the person's body. The Buddha investigate the body into 28 elements, like in Abhidhamma. In Abhidhamma, the ultimate reality of matter, Abhidhamma says there are 28 material elements of the body. Buddha explained all those parts, Olarika, Susma, in that way. First, the Buddha explained Olarika figures. Olarika figures of the Buddha. Olarika figures means five faculties and the five objects. What are the five faculties? Chakku, Sota, Gana, Divha, Kaya, Mana. Especially Chakku. Chakku is eye faculty. Buddha analyzed this eye faculty and shows them, and there is no permanent thing called soul. And object, figure, then the combination of eye faculty and figure, then there arise chakku vijnana, eye consciousness, there arise by combination of those faculty, eye, and combination of figure, by contacting, by impressing, there arise eye consciousness. It is not the soul. It is dependent, originated one. And like that, the Buddha explained, there is no soul inside the body. And he takes ear, then sound, and ear consciousness arise, due to the contact and combination of ear faculty and sound. So the ear consciousness is not a soul. It is not a soul. In that way, the Buddha explained those five faculties and their consciousnesses. There is no soul. Then the Buddha analyzed the keen parts of the body, that is called Kabalinkakara Ahar, femininity, masculinity. In that way, he went in deep and in femininity and masculinity of the person. Again, femininity or masculinity is not the soul, the Buddha pointed out. Then Kabalinkakara Ahar is there, food, digested food there inside the body. They are also not soul, not permanent, and no soul there. And Kaya Vinyati, Vati Vinyati, in that way, the ability of moving body, function of the body, conveying messages with the body and conveying meaning through the speech. In that also, there is no soul. Kaya lahuta, kaya mudita, adaptation of the body. When person engaged in yogi practices, they want to move their body. So the Buddha explained there that moving power of the body is not the soul. There is such power, but it's not the soul. In that way, the Buddha explained, then upachaya santati jarata anicchata. When we consider about our physical body, there is origin or arising. It is a power of arising, but it's not the soul. Then continuity is there. The body, our life is continuing. It's not just because of soul. It is happening, continuing, and then jarata, that is decay in our body. Our body, we can't prevent that. Our body is subjected to decay. We can't prevent it, but that decay in occurs not by means of soul. It is not the soul. The decay is not the soul. The Buddha explained him. Then anicca is impermanence. It's also not the soul. In that way, the Buddha explained, and there is no soul inside your body. Then Buddha asked them to think of the other person's body, the person who live at a distance or nearby, and think of the nature of their body, physical body, and the five ascetics, they investigated the other person's body also, and they uh, investigated the persons that hina panita. Hina means that there are some persons that you don't like. There are some person that you prepare to associate them. The Buddha asked them to think of that uh, persons also. And the the physical body, the nature of the physical body of that person or persons also. Buddha asked them to think of all those things. Hina panita. That means that you take interest some persons. You don't take interest in some persons. The Buddha asked them to investigate or think of all those sort of persons, whether there is soul inside their body. In that way, the Buddha explained, and the Buddha asked them to go their past, the elements, the physical elements that they have had in past, what happened to their physical body in past. In past, they were born as an infant. So what happened to those physical body? Buddha asked them to think about the past and then present, this time, present time, then future, the body that is going to be, what will happen to your physical body in future. The Buddha asked them to think, and they will be all persons. They want to, they will have a stick to walk. In that way, the Buddha elicit their mind to think of the nature of the body. There is no soul. If there is soul, if this physical body is soul, uh, it remains as it is without changing. It remains as we want, but it doesn't happen. The Buddha explained, and then he takes the other aggregates also, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. Vedana means that you sense, you sense pain, and sometimes you sense a present sense. In that way, the Buddha asks them whether there is some permanent thing inside those sense, in sense aggregates. When we like to have present sense, but we can't. If our aggregate of sense is self, is I, why we have to sense pain, suffering, Buddha asked. Then mental formation, and perfection, sanya, we identified several sort of pains, sukha, dukkha, upekha. In that way, we senses perfect due to our faculty of perfection. The Buddha elicited their mind to think of all those aggregates, then mental formation and the consciousness. When we think of the mental formations, what is there any soul in mental formation? We perform unwholesome activities and wholesome activities. But there is no permanent element in common. We perform unwholesome activities, wholesome activities, then we have to face their results. But there is no any soul or permanent elements in this mental formation. In the teaching of the doctrine of karma, the emphasize that there is no such permanent element to perform result to the person. So because there is no soul, non-soul is there. A mental formation, then consciousness. Think of the nature of our consciousness. It is ever changing. It is a stream of consciousness we have. It's not a permanent consciousness or mind. Mind is not permanent, it is ever changing. And the time unit is called chittakshana. That is, it is more, it is smaller than second. I can explain in that way. Chittakshana, the mind, the consciousness is ever changing, and we have the stream of consciousness, not a permanent consciousness, stream of consciousness. The first consciousness is called Patisandhichitta, and the last consciousness is called Tudichitta. That is the nature of the consciousness. It is not a permanent thing. It is not a permanent element. When person dies, nothing goes to other birth from this birth. No permanent element that goes because of non-soul. In that way, the Buddha explained non-soul inside the body and outside the body. In that way, the Buddha explained there is no soul inside the body because Buddha wanted to show that there is no soul because in India at that time, I told you the 62 dogmatic views arised all over India. they presented several doctrines, misconceptions associating those soul, Sasatavada and Kedavada. Buddha's doctrine arises between those two extremes, Sasatavada and Uccedavada. The Buddha wanted to show this. Then after listening to the Anantalakkana Sutta, five ascetics understood there was no permanent soul inside or outside the body. So they entered Nibbana by attaining to Sapurdagami, Anagami, Arihat. After hearing the other suttas, they have entered the Soan state. The five ascetics had entered the Soan state when Buddha preached Anantalakkana Sutta. To enter Nibbana, the ordinary person must eliminate the 10 fetters. They are known as Dasa Sanyodana Dhamma, 10 fetters, that they are in our mind. They are like mental factors. Mental factors, they are in our mind. They bind the person to this world. They are fetters, 10 fetters that bind the person to this world. So to transcend this world, the world, universe, Buddha said this, our body, our life is the world. So we have to transcend this world to enter Nibbana or to enter salvation. So the Buddha said we have to abolish those 10 fetters. When person entered to Sovan, he eliminated 3 fetters: Sakkaya Ditti, Vichikitta, Silabbata, Paramas. Now think of the 5 ascetics. They had entered Sovan state. So they had abolished Sakkaya Ditti, Vichikitta, Silabbata, Paramas. Sakkaya Ditti is selfishness, that is egoism. They have abolished that. Then Vichikitta is skepticism, doubt about Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and Tilakkana, 3 characteristics of existence, Tilakkana, Anicca, Dukkha, Anattama, and former birth, next birth, both former and next birth, and the dependent origination, causality. That is, they suspect, the ordinary person, they suspect about that 8 topics. After entering the Sohan state, they abolish those doubts. So the 5 ascetics, they didn't have such skepticism, doubt. Uh, they have, they had abolished those things. Sakkaya Ditti, Vicikicca, and Silabbata Paramas. Silabbata Paramas is the practice in the wrong ways, like self-mortification. They dependent on self-mortification as ascetics, the 5 ascetics. Now they understood self-mortification and self-indulgence are not the ways to attain Nibbana. So they eliminated Sakkaya Ditti, Vicikicca, Silabbata, Paramas. Then come when the ordinary person come to Sakuddagami, Kamaraga Patika or Vyapada, he eliminate in halfway round, not completely. Kamaraga means to have desire to sense their faculties, sensual. They want to sense their faculties, sensual pleasure. They desire, they take interest. Rupa, Shabda, Gandha, Rasa, Sparsa. They want to satisfy their faculties to those objects. Kama raga, that is craving. Raga is craving. Halfway round they eliminate. And then patiga is anger, vyapada, aversion. He abolishes all those things in halfway round. Not completely. Then anagami. When the person comes to the anagami state, he completely eliminate those two patiga and vyapa. Kama raga and patiga. Anagami. When person dies, when he is in the stage of anagami, he is born in Suddhavasa, the Brahmaloka, and there he attained Nibbana. And there are 5 Suddhavasa Brahmaloka. He is born one of them and he entered Nibbana when person dies in the stage of Anagami. When the person dies, when he is in Sohan state, he is to born in this loka 7 times. He comes to this world for 7 times, only 7 times. After that, he enters Nibbana. The Sakuddagami also comes, return to this world. Then Anagami, he doesn't return to this world. He is born there in Suddhavasa and he attained Nibbana. Then the last state, Arihat. When the person entered Arihat, they eliminate Ruparaga, Alparaga, Mana, Uddata, Avidya. Ruparaga means desire to be born in immaterial Brahmaloka. Ruparaga, Aruparaga, to be born in immaterial Brahmaloka. Desire to be born there. So abolish all those things. Mana is conceit. Eliminate mana. Uddata is a restlessness in his mind. He has calm and quiet mind. And avidya means he realized dukkha jnana, dukkha samudaya jnana, dukkha nirodha jnana, dukkha gamini patipada jnana. That means he understood entirely the Four Noble Truth, avidya. Then he attained Nibbana. So after listening to Anantalakkana Sutta, the five ascetics, they eliminated those 10 fetters and they became Arahant. Now the time is up, I think. Let me stop my lesson with this. Blessing of the people, James be showered upon you. May you understand the Four Noble Truth. I wish you all the best. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Much merit to you, most revered Buluwala Ratana Siritero. Thank you for another interesting sutta. His decision to take this up was through a request by one of our listeners who requested for this sutta, and we welcome other listeners also to send your requests by you can scan the QR code that appears on the screen, and you may send us your questions. So if anybody has a question, you're most welcome to ask. You can raise your hand and then ask. We have about 3 minutes before we can end the session. We do not have any questions on the Sutta requests and questions to Bhante Google form, but you're most welcome to ask your question directly through Zoom. You can raise your hand and then you can unmute yourself and ask the question from Venerable Buluwala Ratana Siritero, or you can type your question on chat. Just take a moment to see if there are any questions on the YouTube live stream. No? Okay, we do not seem to have any questions, Reverend Sir. So we can wrap up our session. This is the end of Sutta class 9. And we will be back again with another Sutta next week, Friday, same time. with the same Zoom login details. Thank you so much for being with us today and listening to Anatta Lakkhana Sutta or the Panchavagga Sutta. And much merit to you, Bulwala Ratana Siritero. Thank you for teaching us a sutta. And so this is the end of the session. I will stop the meeting now, Reverend Sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Vishal. Yes.
Ma'am, this Saturday class is preponed to Friday, or it will be held on Saturday also?
Oh no, the Saturday afternoon 2 p.m. is the Abhidhamma class.
Yes.
This is the Sutta class, two different classes. So Saturday we will continue with our Abhidhamma class. Reverend Bulwala Ratana Siritero informed me, in fact, that it is going to be the last Abhidhamma lesson for the topic that we have been covering, and then we will ask for your preference whether you want to do a repeat of those lessons before we go on to discuss deeper Abhidhamma topics, or whether you want to start deeper Abhidhamma topics in the following Saturday. So we will send around a poll for you to give us your feedback on that.
And this Friday, every Friday, this Sutta class is being held.
Yes, from 8 to 9:15 p.m. And if you do have a request for a sutta that you want to learn, you can definitely, you can definitely send your request through this Google form, or your question on suttas. You can send it through this Google form. The QR code is on the screen. We do a live stream, so you're most welcome to look up from Sanghakaya YouTube channel for these Sutta sessions and Abhidhamma sessions, the previous sessions, and you can listen to them again if you wish to do so. Today, this is the end, and I thank you once again, and much merit for all our listeners, and much merit to our teacher, Bulwala Ratana Siritero. So good evening, everyone, and see you next week, Friday.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.